can't murder liberation. You can murder revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get right to it. So, good news, you could say. I'm pretty sure Captain Ibrahim Traore would say this, and the people of Burkina Faso, they are actively pursuing membership in BRICS. That is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and has formally requested to join the alliance with heavy backing from Russia. So Russia's going to support their membership. So this more than likely will come to pass. And this is a milestone. This is more than a milestone for Burkina Faso. This would put them in a position where France, the United States, the UK, all those EU countries or Western countries who are attempting to destabilize the country will have to now take a step back and look at what was, or what is becoming as a result of their mishandling of the situation in the Sahara. I like to think that also if Burkina Faso becomes a member of BRICS, then surely Mali as well as Niger will follow. And that would really, 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 really upset the West. Now, from reports that we've been receiving in our news feed today, the Sahel is waking up. The Sahel is waking up. Benin is coming around. Chad has come around. Maybe Sierra Leone, maybe. But there are other countries on the continent of Alkebulan, which is the real name for Africa, by the way. These countries are starting to come into their own. They understand just from being able to witness what Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger has done for themselves without the direction or strings attached, as though they were puppets from the West and France, more specifically. You have to give Traore, Tichani, and Goita their props. These guys under so much or under immense pressure from the Western world or interference from the West, as well as these so-called terrorists as ISIS and Al-Qaeda forces, terrorist forces attempting to destabilize the country. Yet they're handling it under the weight of what's going on. They're handling it very well. You have to give them that. And also you have to give kudos, a certain appreciation to Russia as well as China for them being prepared to deal with such an onslaught that would otherwise, without that help, would have probably already destabilized them and orchestrated several coups in all three of the countries. That hasn't occurred. It's been years now. And again, Captain Ibrahim Traore, Tichani, as well as Goita are doing fabulous jobs. They're doing magnificent work over there. More is getting done once after freeing themselves from the clutches of colonial or neo-colonialism than what was ever done under the boot of colonialism as well as neo-colonialism. So you have to give these guys, these leaders, these what America, the West calls the military junta, their props. They're getting it done. And they're far exceeding the expectations, not just of the West, but also the IMF, the World Bank, and others who are watching closely, looking for cracks in the structure or the maintenance and or preparations to make this country all it can be. They're looking for it to fail. So far, so good. Ibrahim Traore, specifically Burkina Faso, has made strides that were unexpected again by the world. They have built roads, hospitals. A number of things have taken place in the last 3 years since Ibrahim Traore's coming into power, so to speak, in Burkina Faso. And the same can be said for Mali as well as Niger. Now, again, they are, making a bid to become a part of BRICS. Now, under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso has completely broken away from its traditional Western allies, particularly France. And I think that's a misstatement. Western allies, they were never allies. France was never an ally to Burkina Faso, Niger, or Mali. They were dictators. They were colonizers. That's just, putting it as it is. But anyway, so they have broken away from its traditional Western allies, particularly France, to form an unshakable military, economic, and political alliance with Vladimir Putin's government, of all people, right? Now, when this first took place, this relationship was formulating, the West was up in arms. They were upset. And I think, they were trying to figure out a way to get in there to make sure that didn't happen, that Russia didn't solidify itself in the area. In fact, they were accused, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, of getting rid of one colonizer to accept another. That was the headline, especially in Western news. But it has been everything but that. They are all free sovereign nations. They are now in control of their resources, something the West did not want to happen, particularly France, the UK, and the United States. But there's nothing they can do about it now. Not only are they in charge of their resources, they are producing, manufacturing, and everything that they dig up, all the resources, they keep them there in the country. They refine them there. They produce it there, and then they sell it, ship it out, do whatever they do. But they're doing such a great job, and a lot of people are very upset as a result of that. All right. Oh man. So Burkina Faso's relationship stands with BRIC and Russia. I think they're in. It's just a matter of time before it's announced, I'm pretty sure. But the BRICS push and the endogenous development, the formal application, Captain Traore's administration has formally declared its intent to join the BRICS alliance, to counterbalance Western economic institutions like the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the World Bank. Economic projects that have been launched, or rather, been waiting for full-fledged consensus membership. Burkina Faso has already partnered directly with the International Alliance of BRICS strategic projects. Delegations from the alliance are working directly in the capital of Ouagadougou to fund local infrastructure, agriculture, and human capital. Diversifying alliances, okay? Now, through the BRICS Plus network, Traore's government is aggressively building trade corridors with other member nations, okay? Particularly securing Indian corporate investment in its energy, pharmaceutical, and mining sectors. Look at them. Energy, infrastructure, gotta have it. So when all this first happened, for instance, when the coups were orchestrated, the military juntas were put in place of power in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, Nigeria cut off the power. They had no power. They were getting most of their power from Nigeria, cut it off. So now here they are constructing their own power grid or power infrastructure. Not only that, but they'll be making their own pharmaceuticals. And if I understand correctly, in terms of Captain Traore's mindset, he's more mindful about pharmaceuticals in terms of just giving his people medications that just, it's a band-aid, over the real issues. This guy is more in tune with finding real cures for illnesses that may exist in Burkina Faso, as well as Mali and Niger. So that's good, as well as the mining sector. So now they mine their own resources, their gold particularly. And that is something else that is really, really, really upsetting France, as well as the United States and the UK. They didn't think this was possible. And now they're sitting over there in France, Britain, and America, like wondering, like, dang, how did we get away? Why couldn't we have just been fair, in doing business with these people, rather than always trying to manipulate and take over or take advantage of, countries that are considered to be impoverished. That's just the way they are. France is suffering as a result in terms of uranium, especially. Mali no longer supplies in Niger, as well as Burkina Faso. They've shut them down altogether, as well as the mining companies from France or that were stationed, or its headquarters are in France. those mining operations have been shut down, and those who ran those mines have been kicked out. So that's a good look. But the Russia-Traore strategic alliance, while BRICS membership remains a multilateral goal, Burkina Faso's bilateral alliance with Russia has already been fully codified. All right, so they're in cahoots, they're buddies. What they do in terms of cooperation, the cooperation pillar that exists between them, actions taken under Traore and Putin, military and security, they got that down pat. Russia deployed military personnel to Burkina Faso, for instance, helped to train the soldiers there in Burkina Faso. Also, geopolitical alignment. You know, Traore has integrated Burkina Faso into the Russian Sahel alliance, along with Mali and Niger. All right. And also, Traore explicitly rejected Western-style democracy, stating democracy kills and must be forgotten. So that's another issue that is a thorn in the side of the West, the United States especially, and France, that they do not allow the democracy framework or the model of democracy that the West practices, you know, elections and things of that nature, politicians running around being corrupt. They ended all that. Good look, actually. Diplomatic red carpet. Traore was treated as a top-tier VIP during his visit to Moscow. Okay, economic and humanitarian. Russia reopened its embassy in Ouagadougou after 30 years and bypassed sanctions to send tens of thousands of tons of free wheat and food aid. Burkina Faso views Russia as its primary diplomatic shield on the United Nations Security Council, and Russia is actively leveraging its influence within BRICS to fast-track Traore's integration into the bloc. So yeah, enough can't be said about this. This is a great advancement for the people of Burkina Faso, and surely enough, it will also trickle down or spill over to Mali as well as Niger. So they're going to be okay in that respect. I see that transition happening. Just to help me along, I do have some content for you guys to put this thing in further context. So let's drop this clip like we always do. But please first like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe. All right. Subscribe to Tapped. You are tapped in. This is the art of political discourse. Your viewership and participation with this channel so far so good. We appreciate you very much. We'd like to ask, although, that you help us to get our numbers up in terms of subscribers to this channel. That being said, let's get to this content because, like I said, it's very informative and it's a good look for the Burkina Bay people, as well as the Malians and the Nigerians. They're all going to win as a result of this. I'm pretty sure of it. Okay, let's share this piece right here.
The West isn't ready for what's coming. After a failed coup, and now Captain Traore's...
Well, not one failed coup against Captain Traore, numerous, like maybe between 19 and 22 coup attempts to take him out, to end his life. A lot of inside people were approached with millions and millions of dollars to do this. Rather than do that, they took the money to Traore and said, this is what they tried to offer us to kill you. Imagine that, right? In this day and age, someone not willing to take $3, $4, $5 million, $10 million to kill a leader. That is something that's extraordinary, especially in Africa. Okay.
His historic visit to Russia, Burkina Faso is on the verge of dismantling 2 centuries of Western dominance in Africa. But why would a sanctioned, insurgency-hit nation challenge the world's greatest powers? Let's find out. For many years, there was never a true cooperation between Africa and the West. It wasn't for Africa. It was about survival. Western political domination, Western economies, and Western influence have to survive. A covert system of control was established under the guise of development partnerships, aid, and security assistance. Additionally, Burkina Faso was imprisoned within it, much like the rest of West Africa. Under the pretext of anti-insurgency, the French troops arrived. They had one goal in mind: to destroy the Islamist organizations tearing apart the Sahel. However, the insurgents grew every year. Towns collapsed. People perished. Prosperity fell apart. The math was easy for those who experienced it. Things deteriorated the longer the French stayed. Pretending that the foreign boots on Sahelian territory were there to defend anybody other than Western geopolitical goals was no longer an option.
I got one challenge for you. Try whisper flow one time, and I promise you'll understand why.
The same was true of Burkina Faso's economy. Even with its abundance of minerals, zinc, manganese, and gold, the nation was nevertheless among the world's poorest. In order to guarantee that African economies could never fully outgrow their European supervision, its currency, the CFA franc, was nonetheless linked to the French treasury. Every financial choice, including debt deals and infrastructure projects, needed to be approved by Paris or Western-controlled organizations like the IMF. There was never free aid. There were restrictions attached. Make your resources private. Get your marketplaces open. Adopt reforms in the Western style, even if they cause social disintegration. There were covert tactics, withdrawal of finances, diplomatic isolation, planned riots, or worse, if a leader objected. Only under Western conditions was Africa permitted to exist. It was not just a military and economic betrayal. It had a psychological component. Mali, Burkina Faso, and their neighbors were reminded repeatedly of their incapacity in the absence of Western supervision. Instead of being regarded as independent rulers, local administrations were viewed as guardians of Western interests. Only when democracy produced leaders who followed outside regulations was it praised. Only when sovereignty did not obstruct foreign access to important military bases, oil fields, and minerals was it accepted. The appearance of Captain Ibrahim Traore was not unexpected. After years of exploitation, humiliation, and mounting national indignation, his rise to power was an inevitable explosion. The young people from Burkina Faso, who crowded the streets with anti-French chants and Russian flags, were hired protesters. They were a generation born into shattered promises, and they had had enough of waiting for unfulfilled Western saviors.
That was something else. Excuse me. That was something else for the youth to recognize. Not only for the youth to be able to stand up and rise up at such a time where Ibrahim Traore had seen it was ripe. The time was ripe to step into the limelight and take care of not only the country, but the people in the country. It just worked out that way. The timing was perfect on both ends, the youth as well as the older generation, and Captain Traore coming together. It was almost simultaneous, in terms of their being tired of the status quo, so it was a good time. It was a good timing as well as good time for that to occur.
It was hardly political theater when Traore said that Burkina Faso needed real partners, not masters. It mirrored a profoundly unpleasant reality that common people were already aware of. Burkina Faso had received assistance from the West. Burkina Faso was left to bleed after it was successful in helping itself. Even assurances of protection became a joke. Insurgents roamed freely only a few kilometers distant from French bases, which frequently remained idle. Tracking regional rivals took precedence over defending Burkina Faso citizens in intelligence activities. When Western officials chastised Traore for refusing to accept their military presence after it had so obviously failed, it was the last insult. The West's lack of concern for victory was evident. It was concerned about staying visible. Therefore, it wasn't a shocking betrayal of old allies when Traore closed Western military alliances, expelled French forces, and started talking publicly about joining Brics. A system that had failed Burkina Faso on all fronts was finally being buried. West and East were no longer the exclusive options. Living under constant humiliation or taking a chance on something novel was the choice. The Sahelian states' partnership with Niger and Mali came to represent that decision. It would no longer be up to outside forces to decide who could rule, how to sell resources, or which conflicts were worthwhile. Burkina Faso was crying independence in a world where African countries were traditionally penalized for simply speculating about it. However, another concern emerged as the traditional foundations of Western authority in the Sahel started to crumble. Would the Brics blocked East, which Traore was wagering on, provide something different? Alternatively, did Burkina Faso just exchange one master for another, wearing different colors? Finding new companions had started, but the wounds from past betrayals would not go away quickly. Therefore, Traore wasn't merely looking for allies when he reached out to Brics. For an entire generation, the generation that saw Western promises fall to ashes and determined never to beg again, he was looking for atonement. There is nothing more at risk. Because this goes beyond economic agreements and foreign policy for Burkina Faso, and possibly for all of Africa. It's about providing an answer to a question that history has far too frequently ignored. Will Africa ever be able to stand on its own 2 feet? Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. Now let's go on. Brics is more than just a block to a country like Burkina Faso, which is smothered by long-standing dependencies and scarred by shattered alliances.
And that would hold true for most of the countries in the Sahel. Those countries, especially under the authority of the French government. Most of these countries have done just really bad, haven't fared well at all as a result of this so-called partnership or alliance that France is too quick to use as a description of a partnership that does not exist. Those countries in the Sahel know all too well that France has been and will continue to, as long as they allow them to pillage and take advantage of these countries that are in more need of their own resources than the resources France continues to need and has taken from that region. So it would stand to say, I think it's okay to express that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger did the right thing, because as a result of the moves they made, you can see the growth, the potential, as well as the direction in which they are going. As long as they were under France's foot, the heel of their boot, they were not even going to see half of what they've accomplished in the last 2 to 3 years since France's departure. So again, this is a situation where Burkina Faso, as well as Mali and Niger, have benefited immensely from as a result of cutting, ties with the neo-colonizer or their former colonizer. It's a good move for all three.
It stands for the aspiration to change its course. However, history cautions that hope can be harmful. As Captain Traore and the leaders of Niger and Mali looked east, they noticed an alliance that didn't speak the same language as the West. Brics, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, portrays itself as a coalition of pragmatics rather than a group of ideological missionaries. It promises partnerships without the haughtiness of presumed superiority, trade without lectures, and loans without political preaching. This new horizon appears alluring at first glance. Brics provides the unconditional respect that Africa has long sought but infrequently obtained. The fundamental tenets of the bloc, sovereignty, non-interference, and mutual development, are in stark contrast to the Western conditional, paternalistic methodology. No calls to overthrow the current regime. No guidelines on how to conduct elections. No secret provisions concealed in glistening assistance packages. The appeal for Burkina Faso is obvious. Through the new development bank NDB, Brics offers the potential to finance infrastructure without ceding control of economic policy to Washington technocrats.
A real partnership for sure.
Instead of being stuck in dollar-dominated systems that erode value through hidden expenses, it entails exchanging gold, cotton, and minerals using national currencies. It entails forming security alliances without ceding political authority at home. However, there is a more nuanced reality hidden beneath the promises. Brics is not a single entity.
Right.
Its members are deeply divided, especially between China and India, whose competing aspirations and border issues frequently put a pressure on togetherness. Brazil alternates between governments on the left and the right, each with a distinct outlook on global collaboration. Russia is becoming more and more anxious for fresh markets and diplomatic successes as a result of the crippling Western sanctions. Even South Africa, Africa's representative in the Brics.
Instead of spending hours creating metadata for a photo of this truck to put in a catalog or use in a store online, I'm going to show you how I can do it all in Airtable using AI in just a few.
Faces economic difficulties and internal instability. The threat is substantial yet subtle for Burkina Faso. It might fall into the hands of another empire in its attempt to flee, one that is perhaps more cautious, but no less self-centered. Africa already has roads, ports, and railroads thanks to China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. However, it has also left nations with debt they are unable to pay back. Chinese finance first offered freedom from Western lenders in countries like Zambia and Kenya, but when repayment terms became strict, it led to new kinds of dependency. Despite being portrayed as mutual defense alliances, Russian security partnerships frequently put Russian geopolitical objectives ahead of African autonomy. Traore has a tough task ahead of him. He needs to take advantage of what Brics has to offer without giving up the sovereignty he has worked so hard to regain. He has to make sure that commercial agreements, military cooperation, and infrastructure projects actually benefit Burkina Faso's interests as a whole.
Yeah, well, he has his work cut out for him, no doubt. But being that he's already the country as well, the people in the country as well, has already experienced what is at hand or what is at stake, having had dealt with France, Great Britain, the UK, as well as the United States, he should be pretty seasoned. And from the looks of it, he seems to be holding his own. So again, we send our congratulations to the Burkina Faso country and its people, as well as Mali and Niger. This is something that, yeah, it's a work in progress, but based upon what is being seen, what's been seen so far, they're well on their way. They've accomplished so much in the last few years that they have decades under French rule, the U.S. rule involvement, or or the West, EU included. Then they've accomplished more in 3 years than all the time they've been under the rule of these foreign interventionists or investors. Those who always want to get in the business of someone else. So again, this is something he had, I'm pretty sure he's aware of, so much so that it's a study for him to make sure that he does not find not himself only in a position or predicament with these foreign nations, China, Russia, Brazil, India, and South Africa, but his people and their economy. So he's doing a great job in that respect. And again, for that reason, we want to congratulate the Traore government and as well as the Chani and Goita's governments. They're doing a fantastic job, and the people of the Sahel should very well appreciate the leadership that they have and the protection that these leaders are providing them every day. So great work. Stay at it. Now, leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think about this. Is that a good move for Burkina Faso to join Brics or want to be a member of the Brics organization? And as a result, say, for instance, they do become members, which I think they will. Would it also be a good look or an advantage to Mali as well as Niger? If Burkina Faso gets in, will they bring in Mali and Niger as well? Let us know what you think about this whole process. And until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.